Why the moon has two faces? Scientists now think a dwarf planet or a second moon has smashed into the far side of the moon surface, and that's how these huge craters were created. Now there are others who think otherwise, but this is an article on Daily Mail, and this is where we're getting the information from, by Victoria Bell. The heavily cratered far side of the moon has puzzled scientists for decades. The far side's crust is also supposedly thicker, but the near side crust is thinner and smoother. A dwarf planet could have collided with the moon in the early solar system, they say, and the research suggests that a collision between the moon and an object slightly smaller than a dwarf planet offers the best theory, the best explanation for the moon's two faces, two different types of surfaces. An ancient collision between the moon and a dwarf planet left half the far side of the lunar surface heavily cratered. This is what the scientists suggest as their theory. The new research suggests that a collision between the moon and an object slightly smaller than a dwarf planet in the solar system's early stages is the best explanation they can come up with. The difference between the Earth-facing near side of the moon, the face that we see continuously facing us, we never see the back side, and we can't see it unless we send a spaceship to take pictures of it. Now, the near side faces us, and the scarred far side of the moon has been debated among scientists since the Apollo era. In the past, scientists suggest that Earth had two moons billions of years ago, and that these moons merged, creating an uneven surface of the far side that exists today. Measurements made by the Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory, GRAIL for short, that's the GRAIL mission in 2012, gave scientists more information about the structure of our moon. These included how the moon's far side has a crust that is thicker than the near side, which we see facing us, and that it includes an extra layer of material, while the near side has a thinner and smoother crust. How is that possible? The detailed gravity data obtained by GRAIL has given new information, new insight into how the structure of the lunar crust underneath the surface could have come about. This is by Dr. Meng Huazhu, co-author of the study, says. Dr. Huazhu and his team ran 360 computer simulations of different scenarios where impacts with the moon could result in the crust of today's moon, being thicker on the far side, that is. They found the best solution is a large body. It could have been about 480 miles, about 780 kilometers, that is, in diameter, and that it could have smacked into the near side of the moon at 14,000 miles an hour, or 22,500 kilometers per hour. The model showed the impact would have thrown up vast amounts of material, and that this material would have fallen back onto the moon's surface, burying the crust on the far side in 3 to 6 miles of debris. And the model also provides a good explanation for the unexplained differences in the isotopes of potassium, phosphorus, and rare earth elements like tungsten-182 between the surfaces of the Earth and the Moon. They said our model can thus explain this isotope anomaly in the context of the giant impact scenario of the Moon's origin. And the researchers explain this is a paper that will be very provocative. This according to Steve Hawk, the professor of planetary geodynamics at Case Western Reserve University. He said, understanding the origin of the differences between the near side and the far side of the moon is a fundamental issue in lunar science. Indeed, several planets have hemispherical dichotomies, yet for the moon we have a lot of data to be able to test models and hypotheses with, so the implications of the work could likely be broader than just the moon. Scientists are hoping to add their models with data from moon missions, including China's Chang'e 4 mission, which landed on the far side of the moon in January. Well, I'm sorry. I've seen the images of the Chinese Chang'e 4 landing on the moon, and I'm saying it again now. I could have done better videos in my backyard. I don't believe that China went to the moon, and that's my opinion, and I stick by it. Now, analysis of data from Chang'e 4 mission reveals substances from the moon's interior on the surface of the crater where the probe landed. This further provides evidence that an enormous collision occurred at least 3.9 billion years ago. The research was published in AGU's Journal of Geophysics Research called Planets. The far side of the moon, known as the dark side of the moon, actually gets as much light as the side that we see always, the near side of the moon, but always faces away from the Earth. The far side of the moon was first observed in 1959, when the Soviet Luna 3 spacecraft returned the first images, and in 1968 astronauts aboard the Apollo 8 spacecraft were the first humans to set eyes on the far side in person as they orbited the moon. Now, since then, several missions by NASA and other space agencies have imaged the lunar far side. That includes NASA's Deep Impact spacecraft, which imaged the far side from a distance of 31 million miles in 2008. This relatively unexplored area of the moon is very mountainous and rugged, making a successful landing there much harder to achieve. China's Chang'e 4 mission that landed in January 2019 was the first to touch down on the surface of the far side of the moon, and from the images that we saw, it was pretty smooth. And it was so close to the ground, you couldn't tell where it was. It could have been on anybody's backyard. Now, upcoming are the NASA images of the moon. Apollo 8, far side, 1968. And you can see this is the far side with huge craters. Apollo 8, 1968 image. And we even have very high definition, closer, showing the tremendous details. Some people have even examined these, saying that they have found structures on the rim of the craters around the big crater here that we see on the upper northeast side. Now, from what we've been told, China has landed on the Chang'e 4 spaceship on the South Pole in another basin, and the only images basically that I have seen from this is very close up and very smooth surface, and just a couple of yards around the lander that the China Chang'e 4 showed us. I am not at all impressed by it, and I believe that for me to believe that they did land, I would have to see a lot more images than what they showed us. Another NASA image of the moon craters. We all notice that they don't go too deep, and we ask, why is that so? They all seem to go towards a certain distance into the surface, and there's nothing deeper than that. And that's one of the questions that everybody has in mind. How is it that they don't go any deeper? Anyway, this is just a theory that the moon has been struck and the craters have been created by some kind of a small dwarf planet. And it's just a theory. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.